All right, so we're building a platformer in Godot, and in the last video, we sort of built out our level with tile maps and tile map layers. So now what we're going to do is we are going to create a character to run around in this scene and, do some fun stuff. So the first thing we need to do, we've got our blue wizard assets already in here. So that's perfect. So let's go ahead and create a little plus sign that's going to bring up a new scene. So for this, we're going to click other node. And since this is a character, we want to do a character body 2D node. That's going to have a lot of benefits that the just regular nodes or area 2D nodes don't have. You'll see you get a little error message here, and that just means that it has no shape, it has no collider. So first thing we want to do is we want to be able to see our character. So let's go ahead and add another node, and for this one we'll do animated sprite 2D, and that's going to allow us to create an animated character. So he's going to walk, he's going to have idle, jump animations, things like that. So every animated sprite 2D has to have sprite frames associated with it. So we'll come over here and click new sprite frames. This is going to bring up this nice little panel down here where we can say, idle. So we'll grab here two blue wizard idle, and we'll just drag all these in. So this is our character, our little wizard guy. Again, the link to download all the sprites and everything that I'm working with is in the description. But we bring this up, and you can see here we have all of the frames of the animation. We can play the animation, and he kind of he winks a little bit and does his thing. It's a little slow, so maybe we'll bring this up to 10 frames per second. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Now we have our idle. We're going to want this to autoplay. So this little icon right here will make it autoplay, and he'll be good to go. So while we're here, let's go ahead and create a couple of other animations. We know we're going to want him to walk, and we're going to want him to jump. To create the new animation, we're going to click this little icon right here, and that's going to give us, we can go walk, and then we can go jump. And then for each of these, we're going to want to drag in our frames. Cool. And then we'll go ahead and just make each of these 10 frames per second also, just so they all kind of, look about the same speed. So you see him walking, you go idle, he's idle. All right, cool. So now we need to do a couple more things. We've still got our error up here. So let's go ahead and add a collision shape 2D. That's what it wants, is the collision shape 2D. And we have to assign it a shape. So over here, we'll click new circle shape 2D. That's going to give us the shape. And then we can just sort of drag this on our player. And actually, the circle shape works really well for small characters, but I also like to do the capsule shape for characters like this because you can kind of stretch it out a little bit more. And the collider doesn't actually have to be on the edges of the character. You can kind of be inside them a little bit, especially here on the sides. We don't want to go too small, but you also, if you go like this, then when he gets too close to an enemy or something, he's going to die, and it won't really make much sense why he died. So, a shape that kind of gets close, maybe slightly inside, is really what you want. And then we're set. So let's go ahead and just rename this node to player, and we can save, and we'll save that in our scenes folder, and we're good. So now we go back over to our level, and then we can scroll down to scenes, and we'll see our player right here, and we can just sort of drag him in. Now he's looking pretty cool, but if we play, and this is just saying what's the scene that you want to be, the default. So we'll just select current for here. If we play, you'll see it's it doesn't really look how we want it to look, right? We can't see the character or anything. So if we go back into our player node, what we can do is we'll add our camera in here. And with the camera attached to the player like this, you can see kind of around it that this purple line, this is what the camera sees. So now if we click play, we should see our character within the camera view. So he's kind of big. So let's Let's change our zoom a little bit. Make him a little bit, yeah, a little bit smaller in the screen. And then when we hit play, yeah, so now this looks a little bit better. But we can't move him or anything. So he's looking really good. He's playing his idle animation. That's awesome. But we can't move him around. And that's going to not be very fun to play. So we click up here on our player node, and then this little icon right here will let you attach a script. And this is what's really cool about Godot is they've already got this template for basic movement. So we can just, come over here and select our scripts folder, and we'll create the script. And that's going to give us this awesome pre-written script that's going to sort of let us do a lot of the stuff that we want to do with the player by default. So if we go ahead and just play this, you can see now we can move him left and right with the arrow keys. We can hit space and he jumps, but it's kind of like it doesn't like feel very good. It's really slow. So we're going to want to adjust some of these values. So for speed, let's change speed to 600. For jump velocity, let's just change that to 1900, and just that by itself is going to make a big difference in just how he feels. That's actually really, really high jump velocity. So I think what we're going to want to do is come up into project settings here, and then there should be an option under physics for default gravity. So let's just change default gravity to 3000, and that's going to give him like a more responsive jump. So let's see if he flies off the map this time. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So now he can run around, he can jump. We're getting somewhere. But he doesn't play any other animations, and he doesn't move left and right when we move left and right. So one thing we can do just to get started here is you'll notice in this script it's using UI accept, UI left, UI right. These are like the default sort of like UI controls that are built into Godot. And I always like to come into my project settings and go to the input map. And here you can like define your different controls. So we can do things like left, right, jump. So once we have left, right, and jump in here, we can hit the little plus sign, and that's going to listen for input. So we can hit left arrow. We can also take an opportunity here to make our WASD keys work. So we'll hit A, and then we can do the same thing for right. We'll do a right arrow, and then we'll do D. Jump, we'll do space, and then we can also do W, and we'll do up. And that gives the player some options. So now we have left, right, and jump. What we can do now is we can come in here and say jump, left, and right. And now if we play, we should be able to move around and jump with the keys that we just assigned. So that's going to be a little bit easier to test now. You can sort of pick what controls that you would like to use. So to make his animation change, we can come into our player script here, and let's just start with the left and right. So we can say if velocity dot x is less than 0, then we want to use our animated sprite. So we can just drag that in for a reference. Then we can say flip h, and that's going to flip the sprite horizontally. And then we can say if velocity dot x is greater than 0, we'll drag in our reference and flip h equals false. And the reason that we don't want to do else here instead of writing the expression again is because if it is equal to 0, we don't want to flip it at all. We kind of want to just like leave him standing the direction he was facing. So now if we play, you can see he turns left and right. And you can also see when he jumps, he turns left and right in midair. So that's great. So now let's hook up our animations for walk and idle. So if velocity dot x is not equal to 0, so he's walking, then we want our animated sprite to play our walk animation. Else meaning he's not walking. Animated sprite, play our idle animation. So he looks pretty good. He's running around, he's jumping. He's kind of slow though, so like it might be cool if we could hold shift to make him run. That would be cool. So let's go into our player script again. Right before this left and right here, we can add a new variable and we'll call it run multiplier. And we'll just set that to 1 by default. So we can say if input dot is action pressed, and we'll do run. We haven't actually set that one up yet, so we'll go ahead and set that up in a second. Multiplier, and we'll just double the speed. Else run multiplier equals 1. So this will basically say if we've pressed run, the run button, then do that. So there is no run button yet though. So we got to hop back into our input map and we'll call this run. And for this one, I'll do left shift and then save. Now what we need to do is we need to use our run multiplier. So we'll just copy the run multiplier, and then here we want to multiply times our run multiplier where we're calculating speed. So now if we play it, we should see him go back and forth, and if we hold shift, he will go twice as fast. So that's kind of a nice little way to get him scooting around. It looks like he's actually going behind the background here. So one thing we can do real quick is go into our ordering. We want our character to be like, what, like level 6, or let's do level 10 even, just to make sure that like he's like way out in front. We can save, and then he shouldn't go behind the background now, but he's in front of the grass. So if he's level 10, we can then come in here to our tile maps and ground, and we can make the ground be, let's see, level 11. Let's make 11. And let's see if that makes him go behind the grass there. Yeah, so now he's behind the grass. Okay, perfect. So he's in front of everything else and he's behind the grass. And that's it. That's, you know, you have a character, he moves around, he jumps, he can stand on the ground. And yeah, so he's ready for more fun.